Hi, I'm JJ Conway, and I help hardworking women and a few good men build financial confidence and take ownership of their financial future. I'm cheering you on with education on financial literacy, smart investments, and passive income streams. Welcome to Ladies of Wealth. Today we've got some questions. Yeah, we've got some questions. We got some questions to answer today about your money. Now look. If you have a money question, there's one of two things I want you to do. Drop it in the chat so I can answer it after I finish the questions that are already in the queue. Or if you don't feel comfortable being known to have asked your question, right? You could also alternatively just go to ladiesofwealth.com and you can click the ask a question, and you can either leave a voicemail or you can do a text question. The voice is just click, you just click the button and it starts recording, and you can just talk. You just nothing, no threat. We'll edit it. We'll take out the ums and the ahs and all of that. Okay. And so I have a couple of questions today that were submitted, and then I've got one that was sent to me. A friend of mine sent it to me off of a money Q&A website, and so we're going to do that today. Now, first of all, I'm going to apologize to the guys up front, because it appears from the questions that I have today, it's like it's mean husband day. And I know it isn't. I know it isn't. I know all men aren't like that. Okay. I know all men aren't like that. It's not true of all men. It just happens to be the ones that are in the questions, and they all felt like they were good to group together to kick us off tonight. So, sometimes, I'm sorry, I'm real distracted about my hat here. I'm like, it did not look like this earlier, but then I put it down and I accidentally put stuff on it. And so now it's all like that. I'm like, no, anyway, I'm sorry. That's my vanity talking. Anyway, I just want to apologize to the men folk today. I know that all husbands are not like this. Okay. It's just how we are. It's just the grouping of the questions tonight. All right. And if you are joining us live, I want to encourage you to check out our Ladies of Wealth podcast. We extract a lot of these Thursday night classes to use for the podcast, but sometimes we have additional interviews and other things like that that go on the podcast. Now, if you're listening to me as part of the podcast, then I'm going to encourage you, guess what? To come watch us live, okay? Thursday nights. Now, I am actually thinking about switching that to the day, and especially since my home setup, the mic is nowhere near as cool as my office setup. I'm like really thinking about switching it to the office, but the little guy doesn't want to miss being a part of the show, and I want to encourage his comfort in front of the camera. So we may just suffer along with this mic setup that I know is not as good as some of the other things you've heard me broadcast. So if you are listening to me on the podcast and you're like, wow, 1 minute she has a great mic and the next minute she has an okay mic, and then sometimes I'm traveling and the mic is not that great, just bear with me. We're getting it together. I already done put the pre-warning in, started greasing the skids there to Mr. Man that I may have to get a new computer set up for here, because we determined that all these mics we've been buying, it's not that they don't work. They don't work with this old computer. My beautiful chocolate drop computer. If you haven't seen my beautiful chocolate drop laptop, y'all, it's gorgeous. It's based on the chocolate diamonds, the Levian chocolate diamonds. It's gorgeous, and they don't make them anymore. And I love my laptop. I love how it looks. I love when I pull it out and people are like, ooh. Y'all know I'm not that bougie. I don't walk around with a whole lot of brand names. Like, I'm not gonna wear your brand unless I like it or you're paying me, right? But I do like my chocolate drop laptop, and I think it might be time to let her go. Anyway, all right, so let's get to the questions today. Excuse me, let me just take a quick sip here. All right. Our first question today is about a woman whose husband is threatening divorce. Whoa, that's a big word, because he found out she's been investing. We are also going to hear from a woman who has been hiding her shopping from her husband. And we're going to hear about a woman who has been, shall we say, supporting her college-age son. Again, men, I know the Ladies of Wealth podcast, we support hardworking women and a few good men. And I want you to know we are not here to tear down men today. This is just the nature of the grouping of the questions. Okay. So, excuse me. Here's the first question. Okay, JJ, I need some perspective. Oh, I already like how they write this. I need some perspective here because my husband and I are in a huge fight, and now he's throwing around the word divorce. So here's the situation. We've been married about 10 years, and during that time, I've been putting aside a little bit of my fun money every week, like $50, sometimes a little more, sometimes less, and I've been investing it. Well, he just found out about the account, and he's furious because I didn't tell him. The account is around 20. The account is around $24,000 now. From my perspective, this was my spending money anyway. If I didn't invest it, I probably would have just bought random stuff or gotten my nails done or something. But the real reason I didn't tell him is because he's honestly kind of a spender. If he had known that money existed, there would have been constant pressure to use it for this toy or that trip or something he suddenly decided we needed. Now he's saying the secretly is basically financial betrayal and he's threatening divorce over it. Ooh, y'all. Now this is crazy. This is so crazy. Now, I also I gotta warn you, we're trying out different things with the setup. I'm still not sure where to look. Like to look at the camera. Am I looking at the middle? It's like they change it every time. And I forgot to do a screen on it before we started. So anyway, I'm gonna look here. If I'm not looking at you, I'm sorry. It's not because I'm reading anything. I'm just looking here because I'm not sure, because I know here's too low and I know up at the camera is too high. Okay. Anyway, financial betrayal, huh? And he's threatening divorce over it. This is a difficult one for me. This is a difficult one for me, y'all, because y'all have heard me. If you've been with me for any length of time, you have heard me say, don't ever, never, never, not ever, as Clark Howard would say, never, ever, not ever liquidate your investment account for some smooth talking man. But in this case, the smooth talking man was her husband when she put together the investment account. Okay. So, usually in the other two questions, I should have saved this one for the last, because usually the question is, I've been spending money and hiding it from my spouse. Not I've been saving money and hiding it from my spouse. But I'm going to have to take my personal situation out of this. But before I do that, I want to explain my personal situation. So for those of you who don't know, life happened and I ended up a single military mom with over $800,000 of debt. And that was, I really had to hustle hard to do what I needed to do so that I could retire from the Air Force and not be overshadowed by all that debt. And so for me, when I read this, I'm like, she says her husband spends a lot of money. And I spend more money now than I used to. And not just because a lot of the money I spend in the store is my husband's money, because he does cover all our expenses. But I mean, I'm still a very frugal person. I mean, I don't always buy generic brands, because if I'm making a recipe, I need it to taste the way I want it to taste. But I'll do generics when I need to, and I'm all for saving. I'm not just gonna go out there. I'm always looking for a coupon code before I buy something online, right? But when you are in partnership with somebody that spends money like there is no tomorrow, if it's in the account, it is meant to be spent. That's how some people really live their lives. And that's not a good recipe for financial independence. I'm not knocking the fun and the excitement of living that kind of life. And I think a lot of times opposites attract. And so the person who is more spendthrift, they like to shop, they like to spend, they like to be the life of the party, they like to treat everybody, they can introduce levity and fun to a person who is really more tight with their money and is afraid to have fun. Okay. On the flip side, the person who is more structured with their money and who is more calculated and strategic with their money can then introduce some structure, some guide rails to the person who's always having fun. And that way, the person who's always having fun can ensure that there will be money left later to have fun with. A lot of us grew up in situations where, we our parents got paid Friday night and then they spent all the money and then there was no money for the next 2 weeks, or the next week or however often it was. Okay? So, saying all of that, I think this really brings in a couple different pieces that I am not really qualified to talk about. So I'm just going to mention them from an observer of human behavior. Can we say that? I'm not a counselor. I don't play one on TV. I didn't stay at a Holiday Inn last night. So I'm just observing human behavior. And when I observe human behavior, when that word is thrown out over a revelation like this, that's pretty much a signal, a symptom, a sign that there's a lot more going on that's wrong. Because when you find out the person you love has done something that really hurts, they've hidden something from you, your love for that person kind of carries over. That love for that person kind of carries over. Whoops, hold on. I don't know what I just did. That your love for that person should carry over. Your love for that person should carry over to at least try to work it out. So I don't know if the man has been looking for an excuse. I don't know what other history went behind this question. He found out about the secret account because they were already considering divorce and he had gone to a lawyer and the lawyer found this out. I mean, like that's that, lead with that next time, right? There's a lot of underlying things that we don't know. But one thing I do know is that when you love somebody, when you truly love somebody and you want what's best for them, then you don't rush to such drastic measures for no reason. Does that make sense today? Again, I'm not a counselor. Don't play one on TV. It's just my observation of human behavior. And so I would say that if this is that first mention or first marital crack, well, that was your problem. Now, I'm also going to say that the fact that she feels like she needs to have investments that he doesn't know about. See, I don't want to say it like that. It's not like she's lying to him. Okay. I got a question later on where the gal is lying to her husband. All right. Now that's a whole different ball of wax. This lady is not lying to her husband. They have a set amount, and whatever it is, her little bit of fun money every week, I think she said it was about $50. She saves it. Sometimes she might buy something with it, but for the most part, she socks it away in an investment. And now it's grown over 10 years or however long she said it was. Now it's grown. Well, it's grown, but does that mean he needs to know? I would love to get your input on because I'm really torn on this. I feel like honesty is the foundation of a relationship, but I don't feel like he should feel entitled to money she invested with her fun money. That's her weekly spending. Like if she wanted to go out to eat with some friends, that's the money she used to invest with. So she said, nah, I'm not going to get that nasty McDonald's. I'm going to put this in investment because I need to have something for my future. And I personally encourage women to, save, we used to call it milk and egg money. If you have a little side business, or even if you have a big size business, depending on your family structure, if you can sock away some money for savings, I highly encourage women to do it. Not because men, we want to hide everything from our men, but because men traditionally leave women hanging when they die early. Like you have an insurance policy for 30 years, and then at the 2 years before he dies, he decides he's not going to do it anymore. Like he's not going to pay the premiums anymore. Like you don't know what's going to happen. You know, he gets into a gambling thing, and the next thing you know, you're losing your house. You, you don't hear those kinds of stories all the time the other way around. So I'm not trying to be stereotypical. I'm just saying when you usually hear of a story like that, it's the woman left holding the bag, not the men. Unfortunately, she's not holding the money bag, she's holding the poverty bag because of his decisions. So I kind of feel like his anger is maybe not directed in the right way. Let me give you a real world example. And I hope I didn't clear this with my husband because I didn't think of it till just now. So hopefully I'm not embarrassing him too much. But you know, I don't like to be early. Now, I don't like to be late either. And I've noticed over the years that I've been retired from the Air Force, it's almost like a backlash. Like, ooh, I had to be 5 minutes early and on time. 5 minutes early is late. You know what I mean? Like I had to be so regimented with my time. But while I was in the Air Force for 23 years, plus 4 years at the Air Force Academy, like it's almost like a backlash. Like, no, I'm not going to be on time and you can't make me. Well, discipline is the ability to give yourself a command and actually follow it, right? So we driving that devil away, okay? But I still, even being on time, I do not like to be too early. And there's a lot of reasons for that we won't go into right now, but you know, to me, they're very valid reasons, and you know, that's just how I am. My husband, on the other hand, if he's not 15 minutes early, he's late. To me, I'm like, I could get three things done in that 15 minutes, right? And so I'll never forget a date. Or I think it was a second or third date. I forget which one, but it was early in. Like it was early in. We weren't that invested yet, you know. And I remember thinking to myself, after this, I don't know what's about to happen here, but we're gonna have to work this out because we had a date schedule. I don't remember the exact time. I'm just gonna throw out 6:30. Okay, I think it might have been 6:30. We had a date scheduled for 6:30. He was gonna come pick me up and take me out to dinner at 6:30. So, and I get off work at 6 o'clock. And because I was getting ready to deploy, my son already lived with his father. Or was it my mom? I think it was his father this time. My son already lived with his dad, and in anticipation of me deploying in a month or two. And so we didn't want him to break up his school year. We just started the school year in Virginia. And so I didn't have childcare to worry about or anything, but I worked till 6. Well, I lived right outside the gate. I mean, it was 5 minutes to my job. 6:30. Oh yeah, I could be ready by 6:30. Only I get home at 6:10 and he's already sitting in the parking lot. And it's not that big of a deal to most people, but honestly, I did not like showing guys me in uniform. I mean, I did not like guys to see me in uniform before they got to know me because my uniform was kind of intimidating with the rank and everything, right? And so I get out the car and he's like, hi, and I'm like, it's 6:10. Why are you here? We're not meeting till 6:30. And he's like, well, I like to be early, and he had driven from an hour away, so I mean, of course, he wanted some flex time. But look, if it had been me, I wouldn't have done that. I might have come early if I'm driving from an hour away, but I would have hid myself. I wouldn't have been like that. You weren't expecting me till 6:30. I wouldn't show up till 6. In fact, in a social event, now this is the difference between the North and the South, y'all. In a social event, you don't show up on time. You show up 5 minutes late because on time the hostess is still getting things together. The South is different. I know I'm on a rabbit trail from a rabbit trail from a rabbit trail, but just hear me out on this. The South is different because in the South, I just learned this year. Y'all, I've been living in the South for like 10 years now, and I just learned this last year. In the South, when women have a get together, everybody comes early to help you set up and to get to know each other and to visit with each other. I didn't know that. I did not know that. I would get irritated when people would come early, like why? And they'd be like, "Can I help? Can I help?" And for me, it's like no, and that must be the Italian thing, right? Because it's like no, my house is already supposed to be spotless. Everything is supposed to be laid out. When you show up, it's supposed to be done. That's not that's not how the South works. I don't even know if that's how the North works. That just might be how an Italian family works. I don't know. You know, Italian families are interesting. My auntie who passed away, she used to have, she didn't now, but she used to have two kitchens, two living rooms. You never saw the one that actually got used or got cooked in. You saw the pristine, gorgeous one. Anybody else got a family like that for the old world ways, right? So anyway, So he was like, well, we have a 6:30. And I'm like, yeah, but it's only 6:10. I still gotta go get ready. Now he was impressed that I got ready quick. So whew. But the thing is, when people have differences of opinion, they need to either work that out or they need to figure out a workaround. And I get a little, I tell you what, I get a little frustrated sometimes. We got a clock where I get ready that somehow magically got early. It magically, and I'm sure not one of the three men in my house, well, boy and two men in my household will ever admit to changing the clock, but I'm pretty sure they changed the clock to make sure that mom gets done on time. And do I threaten to leave over it? No, I chuckle like, okay, I got to do a better job of getting on time. And one day that clock is going to be back. I'll always be early, in 5 minutes early again, like in the military. That day has not come yet. But do you understand what I'm saying? I'm using a lighthearted example to kind of touch on this really difficult question, because should the husband understand that he blows through money like there's no tomorrow, and if she let him have her fun money, then he would blow through that too? If he appreciated her, he should be able to be like, oh man, I'm late. I'm sorry you had to push the clock back. Or I'm late. I'm sorry you had to give me an earlier time. Like the first time, like I don't know if people still do it because I try not to have that happen anymore. But I remember the first time I realized that people gave me an early time, because I showed up because I was trying to work on being on time, and I showed up half an hour early, and and I made a comment and everybody got red, and I was like, oh, they did that on purpose. They didn't want me to be late. The first time that I know that happened, I'm not saying how many other times it might have happened in the past, but the first time that happened, I said, oh no, we're not going to have this happen again. I'm going to be on time. Now, have I always been on time? Probably started this podcast 5 minutes late, right? But for the most part, we're getting we got a handle on it, right? And so if I'm this husband and I'm spending like crazy, and my wife is squirreling away money, well, first of all, my love should keep me from threatening divorce. So the fact that he did implies this lady really needs her money because something else is going on. Okay. Secondly, if he knows he's got a problem with money, why not appreciate the fact that she's had the foresight to do this? Again, deeper problems going on. And then finally, it was her fun money to begin with. So I'm gonna if she was sitting here in front of me, I would tell her, hey, nothing wrong with saving your fun money. However, I would also tell her this is a problem now because you've broken trust with your husband. And I would probably get more of the story, right? But at face value, this is one of those no-win situations. And sometimes when it comes to money, we have to be in a no-win situation. I remember let me not tell that story. Let me go back to what I was saying about how sometimes the husband dies early and the wife is left holding the bag. I had a guy I was liking. I don't think he watches my podcast, and I don't think his wife does either. So I'm gonna go ahead and tell the story. But I had a guy I was liking. We never dated or anything. We were just platonic friends for a while. But then I kind of got a crush on him, and he told me that his dad cut off his life insurance for his mom. And I was like, what? Why would you do that? And he said, well, his dad's best friend died, and his dad's best friend's wife was living the high life off of the insurance money. And she was traveling all over the world, and she was dating other men. And this man's dad decided he didn't want his widow doing that when he passed away. And I looked at him and I was like, now, wait a second. Now, your mom, because they were a military family, just like mine was, your mom gave up her career and her life to move all over the world and take care of y'all. And he's not going to leave her any insurance money because she might actually have fun. Like, what kind of sense does that make? Like, she earned that insurance money. She earned the right to have some fun in her mature years. Now, I don't know if he really felt that way or if he just said it so I would stop liking him. But the minute he told me he agreed with his dad, I was like, all the feelings, they were gone. Because if you agree with that, you're going to do that to me. And I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Men, good men know this, and I'm sure men put up with a lot from their wives too, but I feel like women put up with a lot and give up a lot to be a good partner, and they deserve everything that they can have. Okay, so this could be one of those no-win situations. But the bottom line is you acquired this money while you were married. So technically, even though it was your fun money, technically, even though you both spent your money the way you wanted to, technically, if y'all do get a divorce, half that money belongs to him. And the lawyers are going to make you split it. So if I were you, I would try to, I would try to reconcile this with your husband, assure him that you weren't plotting and planning against him to leave him. But I'm gonna tell you now, I didn't get any details in this. But many of us know with human behavior, what's the first thing that cheaters do? They accuse you of cheating. What's the first thing that fill in the blank does? They accuse the spouse of doing what they did. It's a psychological thing called projecting. And if they're projecting, if he finds this money and all of a sudden, well, you're trying to do this and 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 I want a divorce, chances are there's a dead cat on the line. And so I encourage you, my sister, to try your best to smooth things out for the benefit of your household. But at the same time, I would start getting my ducks in a row just in case. And if this person who spends everything faster than y'all can earn it decides that he wants a divorce from you and because you're trying to take care of y'all's future, well, I believe that, two people who want to work things out can work things out, especially if they filled with the Holy Spirit. But sometimes you got to let the trash take itself out. Okay. I hope you've enjoyed that question. And I hope that I will see you again on the next Ladies of Wealth podcast. If you have a question and you'd like to ask it for the Ladies of Wealth podcast, please go out to ladiesofwealth.com and click Ask JJ. And there will be two options. One is a contact form that you can do anonymously. And then the other one is a button that has a microphone. You don't have to install anything. You don't have to fill out anything. You just click the button and speak your question, and then it'll come to me and I can actually incorporate it into the podcast, which I really love. I'm doing a push to get people to do that. I think we're going to do some kind of promotion next month to try to get more people to do that. But you could be the first, second, third, or fourth, and I would love you for it. Okay. With that, I don't see any questions in the queue. I'm going to go ahead and call it a day. I'm JJ Conway. I want to thank y'all for being with me today. Please connect with me on social media. I'm on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Insta, all the things as JJ Knows the Way, except TikTok, which I'm JJ Knows the Way Real, because somebody swooped in and got my username right. And it's so funny because it was right after I said, I'm not going to bother with TikTok. And then somebody's like, you better, or somebody's going to steal your name. And I was like, nobody's going to want my name. And then I went back. I was like, you know what? They might. I went back a month later. That name was gone. So, yeah. You can find me on every other social media as JJ Knows the Way. And if you come across a social media that I'm not on yet, let me know about it so I can stake my claim. Don't you take my name now. Anyway, if you can find me on social media at JJ Knows the Way. And the only reason I can say I know the way is because I know the one who is the way. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Don't forget to like this episode, subscribe to the channel, and ask your question at ladiesofwealth.com.